Hi, everybody. Welcome to class this week. Just to a recording I'm making just before our final class, where we had a bit of a review of just the Heart Sutra. Of course, I feel in some ways that we're going a little too quick for this, but at the same time, this is one of these things, just like when I was Christian, I always had to go to church every Sunday with my mom and just say, oh my God, how come we're going over the same thing over and over again? My mom said, because we never get it. So it's just the same thing with Heart Sutra. As a Buddhist, we want to keep coming back to this text over and over and over and over again, and go deeper and deeper, read commentaries, meditate on it and live it and so forth. So this is just a very cursory introduction to our class and on the Heart Sutra. So we can look at it that way. And I always think it's my first teacher, again, Kelsing Tarshan, was very kind of very Tibetan kind of style. He used to do culturally, and he felt that it was always very auspicious to leave everything unfinished, because karmically you'll want to return to it, because you sort of tie up loose ends. And so anytime he would teach something, he'd always leave out the last little bit, the conclusion. We wouldn't read the last page of the book, or we wouldn't finish the prayers. He'd always, just to sort of keep the process going. So I feel it's the same thing here with the Heart Sutra, that whatever we leave out, or it's kind of however we're leaving a little unfinished and so forth, this will give us the karma, make us interested in going a little deeper next time and do another course on it, for instance, in the future. Okay, so with that, let's read the Heart Sutra. Homage to the perfection wisdom of the Blessed Mother. As I've heard, at one time the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgir and mass Walters Mountain, together a great assembly of monks and nuns and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. That time the Blessed One was absorbed in the concentration of countless aspects of phenomena called profound illumination. That time also Spirit of Aukshvara, the bodhisattva, the great beings, looking perfectly the practice of profound perfection wisdom, looking perfectly also the five aggregates being empty of inherent existence. Then through the power of Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Spirit of Aukshvara, the bodhisattva, the great being, how should a son of the lineage train who wishes to engage the practice of profound perfection wisdom? Thus he spoke, and Spirit of Aukshvara, the bodhisattva, the great being, replied to Venerable Shariputra as follows. Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of the lineage wishes to engage the practice of profound perfection wisdom should look perfectly like this. Subsequent, looking perfectly and correctly also the five aggregates being empty of inherent existence. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is none other than form. Form is also none other than emptiness. Likewise, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Should I put you like this? They're all phenomena are empty and having no characteristics, producing that cease. They have no defilement, no separation from defilement. They have no decrease and no increase. Therefore, should I put you in emptiness? There's no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness. There's no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mentality, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no tactile object, no phenomenon. There is no I element, so forth, up to no mentality element, also up to no element of mental consciousness. There's no ignorance, no exhaustion of ignorance, and so forth, up to no aging and death, no exhaustion of aging and death. Likewise, there's no suffering, origin, cessation, or path, no exalted awareness, no attainment, also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there's no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide in the perfection of wisdom. Their minds have no obstructions and no fear. Pass on beyond perversity, attain the final nirvana. Also, all Buddhas reside perfectly in the three times, having relied upon the perfection of wisdom, making manifest complete Buddhism, state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, unsurpassed mantra, equal to the unequal mantra, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, since it's not false, should be known as the truth. The mantra of perfection of wisdom is proclaimed, Tayato Gada Gada Paragata Parasamgati Bodhisoha. Shariputra, bodhisattva, great beings should train the profound perfection of wisdom like this. When the Blessed One arose, that concentration said to Spirit of Aukshvara, bodhisattva, the great being, that he'd spoken well. Good Giddos on lineages like that, since it's like that, just as you have revealed, in that way the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced, and Tathagatas will also rejoice. Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra, Spirit of Aukshvara, bodhisattva, the great being, the entire circle of disciples, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, and spirits, were delighted and highly praised what had been spoken by Blessed One. Okay, so let's take a moment to do our meditation. Let's visualize ourselves seated in a wide open space, around like lapis lazuli, easy to sit on. A beautiful dome of blue sky above us, and us surrounded by all sentient beings of the six realms. So again, our mother on our left, father on our right, people we love the most behind us as support, people we like the least in front of us as objects of care and compassion. So moving out from there, we can think of people from all over the world. And we can think of places where they need healing more than others, places of great war and conflict now in the world, and environmental degradation and so forth. And there's a lot of suffering. We might not be able to help these people directly now, but even indirectly, we can just send them positive energy here just by thinking and sending love. Animals from the animal realm, just the whole sort of natural environment, living things here with us. Spirit world, all the different realms and planes. Celestial beings, gods and demigods, or asuras and asuras. And countless beings of lower states of rebirth. Hell beings and prana beings. All of us here like a big sentient being family meditating together. Now, sky above us, like two beautiful suns in the sky, one above the other. We're looking first at the top Prajnaparamita, made out of golden light. The perfection of wisdom, mind realizing emptiness, sort of metaphorically symbolized by a beautiful goddess of wisdom like Sophia here, Prajnaparamita, mother of all the Buddhas. And she's like a princess with a crown, beautiful silks and jewelry and so forth in lotus position with forearms, first two holding meditative equipoise, and then out from that, the other two left-handing holding the Prajnaparamita text in 100,000 lines, and the right holding the golden dorje. We can even visualize it at her heart, the sort of primordial vibration or seed syllable for wisdom. The Buddhas, which is the A-H-A, A-H, sorry. Or if you want, you can just have the letter A or the Sanskrit or Tibetan letter, whatever's easier for you. So we add the A-H to make it sort of soft and long. It's like rather than That's very relaxing. And now below Prajnaparamita, so like the figure has Prajnaparamita on their, so just above their head, like a little crown, is Buddha Shakyamuni. And Shakyamuni Buddha, the Buddha has beautiful golden energy, body, and 3 robes of monk, left holding a big bowl of missal nectar, and right is touching the earth with the subduing mudra. Let's take a moment to take refuge from our heart. Generate bodhicitta, an awakening mind. So I am all sentient beings, and to achieve enlightenment, go refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, in particular taking refuge in emptiness, ultimate truth. And the Buddha who has realized this and embodied this, the teaching that he teaches on emptiness, how to reach that same state, and the spiritual community of all of our Dharma friends that are all on this path, helping each other out, helping one another realize emptiness. That's the only refuge for us. And now setting our intention of great compassion. Whatever we do, may it be for the cause of the awakening of beings. Also to generate love, compassion, joy, and equanimity, wanting all beings to be happy, not wanting them to suffer. We have this sort of great positive power and liberation, enlightenment, the joy that comes from them. And having a balanced mind, sort of a mind that's sort of balanced, grounded, and open and friendly to the world. Seven-limb practice here. Prostration, showing respect to the merit field. Opening our mind in hearts of generosity of giving. Acknowledging, owning our negativities and downfalls, ethical downfalls, wanting to work and outgo them, purify them, overcome them. Rejoicing in all the goodness in ourselves and others. Asking all the Buddhas and holy beings and light beings to stay with us always and to stay, guide, and teach us, help us reach enlightenment. And dedicating just everything that we do, let's all put it together into a big package here and send it towards enlightenment. Send all beings, may we all be on our way to enlightenment. Everything that we do, let's sort of shovel it towards that big pile of getting all beings enlightened and liberated. Holding the purified universe, our mandala at our heart here. This little, you want, you can hold your bell, for instance. So the mandala, purified universe. So just a beautiful universe, all beautiful things, all pure things at our hearts here that we're offering up as an offering to holy beings. The ground sprinkled with perfume and spread with flowers, the great mountain, four lands, sun and moon, seen as a Buddha land and offered thus, may all beings enjoy such pure lands. Okay. Okay, so may all beings enjoy this beauty. May all beings enjoy this purity, these pure lands. Just purifying our mind, purifying our heart here. Okay, let's just take a moment now to do the visualization of the absorption. So just we can just feel after having made that mandala offering, all beautiful lights and nectar start coming down from the heart of Prajnaparamita, Mother of the Buddhas, Buddhist goddess of wisdom here, and Buddha Shakyamuni both. So just like a huge waterfall of light and energy, golden light and energy coming down into the crown of our head. So everywhere around us is just golden light and energy. And we can feel very, very blissful. Request, please, Buddhas, we request you please grant us your blessings of body, speech, and mind. And with that, we start to see that Prajnaparamita, Buddha Shakyamuni, start melting into golden light, two sort of spheres of light, and then join into one here, like a beautiful sun in the sky. And it starts to shrink and get fairly small here. And once it gets small, just like a little shooting star, it sort of comes down to the crown of our head here, enters our chakra, crown chakra here, and descends into our heart. And once it reaches our heart, just feel that this light starts to absorb and melt into our mind, our soul here at our hearts. And we get all the compassion, the wisdom and power of all the Buddhas here. And we can feel great joy and bliss and spaciousness and deep relaxation. It's a real sense of totality. And we can just sit with this. Is a meditation now. Okay. Look here. What we got. Okay. On the Heart Sutra here. Okay, so just a bit of a review here just on the five aggregates or the five skandhas that are mentioned here. Of course, as you know, in the Heart Sutra, that's a big part of it, where you say no body, no mind, no feeling, all these kinds of things. So let's go over about like really Buddha here is talking in the Heart Sutra, of course. The most important thing is we're trying to see the emptiness of the self, our own particular self, our body and mind. So we're not trying to look at just like the emptiness of, let's say, a dorje or something like that, or the emptiness, whatever, my mala, or, you can look at the emptiness of everything. The emptiness in everything is the same emptiness, but it'll hit closer to home if we look at the emptiness of ourselves rather than just trying to looking at emptiness of an object before us. The real issue, all of our suffering comes from our self-cherishing mind, our selfish mind, which is predicated on our grasping at an inherent self, truly existing self, and unchanging self, all these kinds of, qualities, so to speak, of ignorance. Their self-grasping had a particular self or ego of ourselves, of our body and mind. And so to really alleviate that, to sort of knock that over, that cause of our suffering, to see that the origins of our suffering in terms of the Four Noble Truths, the Four Arya Truths, our suffering comes from this self-cherishing. That's the origin of it. So what's the cessation, the true cessation? The third Arya Truth or third Noble Truth is, we can turn this off. This is a mistake that we can solve. This is a problem we can solve. This is, kind of like a wrong setting on a machine that we can turn. So if we can stop the causes of that, we end up stopping the effects. So of course, we're acting on a basis of ignorance here that ends up, in a sense, thinking that there's an inherent self to our body and mind. If we can see that there isn't, we can behave differently and not create the suffering for ourselves, but rather create happiness. So that's why in a lot of ways we're just looking at the five skandhas, or the five heaps, the five aggregates here. Just sort of, that's the target that we want to have for emptiness meditation. So again, what are the five aggregates or the five skandhas? Of course, number one is form, usually seen as your body or embodiment here in the world. So it says your body sense to as far as you can sense the limit of your senses. So that's why I like to use the term rather than just body, like form in its general sense, that all the forms of your experience, like if you look in the flow of your experience or the theater of your experience, there's all just different kinds of forms. So it's that kind of sense of it, but it's your body and the world go together, that sort of form of embodiment. So the form of the body is also connected to the form of the objects or so forth around you that are given to you by your senses here. Number two, your feelings. You feel physically or mentally good or bad or neutral. This is sort of always going, even whether you're sentient being or enlightenment, the feeling aggregate of sort of the affective content of your experience is always on there. Your capacity for discrimination aggregate, which is, this is red, this is blue, this is straight, this is curved, whatever, this is this object. They always sort of give it a sort of like in typical Gestalt therapy, they give it like a figure ground, that something determinate shows up against a background of indeterminacy. It's the same thing with the discrimination aggregate here. Okay, so the feeling aggregate, discrimination aggregate here are part of the 52 mental functions or secondary minds that they give in Buddhist psychology or low rig here. They sort of get they're so important. They're mentioned among the five heaps that make up kind of like the play of your life, so to speak, who you are. Number four, consciousness or awareness, the fact that you are aware. So like this, I wrote down from Geshe Michael's notes here. It's just this fact. Okay, why are you aware right now? It's just this fact you're experiencing, and that this is a miracle of life in the sense that this is a groundless ground, this mind that has no quality or definition, nevertheless is the access to the world. It's just that fact. There is something happening, the dream of your life, the movie of your life, the fact that there is things going on. Just this awareness is always the basis of that. There's a great quote by His Eminence Urgyen Toko Rinpoche that I really like. It's very Aristotelian. He said, I don't know which book it is of his. I have it in an article, I think, somewhere. It might be in an old Shambhala Sun magazine or something like that. But he says, mind has no quality. It's immature in the sense that it has no form. It's formless. And then he says, isn't it amazing? Something with no form or quality can experience. Isn't it amazing that awareness, the fact that there's no quality or way we can even point at this awareness or be able to describe it in any way, that it's nevertheless aware. It has no quality, but it can still experience. Isn't that? And he says, isn't that amazing? And that's what in Dhyānama, Aristotle says, it's precisely because it has no quality that it can experience anything. Like this is what you get even with Noam Chomsky, famous, philosopher and linguist and political commentator and psychologist, with his Cartesian linguistics during the 1950s. The thing that he says that's like a miracle or an amazing thing. And he's a scientist, he's a materialist, but he's like, it's incredible that out of a limited set of concepts or a limited defined grammar, human beings can create almost an infinity of ideas, expressions, or senses. And isn't that amazing? It's like the sum's greater than the whole of the parts. Right? That the idea of generative grammar, that you're generating or creating things, and isn't this amazing? So it's the same thing here. It's just with mind. Isn't it amazing that there's no mind in mind, there's no quality of mind, and it's that precisely that, as Sartre would call it, Jean-Paul Sartre, the no thingness or nothingness, and in French it's néant, right? But it's like the fact that there's no thingness to mind or consciousness, allows it to be anything, right? Anyway, I just always think that that's really kind of cool and amazing. Okay, and then the fifth aggregate, of course, is what they usually title as compositional factors. That's what you usually see it translate. In other words, it'd be other factors or the other mental factors, the other secondary minds that qualify your awareness here. All the other conceptual parts. Okay, so why is it important that we separate out of these 52 mental factors or secondary minds? Why are feeling and discrimination so important? Why are they actually part of these 5 aggregates, like having their own sort of special place? Because technically, they are the root of samsara, okay, in the sense that we're judging things to be certain things or certain ways, and we're having a certain affective content about them. This is that, X is Y, and I either like it or don't like it, or I don't care. So basically, that's what samsara is. It's technically, by themselves, these aggregates aren't anything bad. I mean, obviously, discrimination, even as a Buddha, you have discrimination. You can talk about things, you can perceive objects. And Buddhas have a feeling aggregate too, which is always blissful and always good and pleasurable and always pure, right? But with us, these aggregates are contaminated. What's interesting is that I have here, we have an image in your mind that you're laying on parts or objects, and it's so seamless that you believe it, that your mind is making things up. Mental images are forced on the world and forced on you. So in other words, what's diluted for us about these aggregates is we don't see how they're working. We don't see them for what they are. right? In other words, when I take, again, using whatever, take my mala to be a mala, just like, a set of wooden beads, and this is a Buddhist rosary, it looks like this is just the way it is, independent of my mind, independent of my judgments, but it's precisely my judgment that's creating this thing. So this is the philosopher Martin Heidegger. Martin Heidegger would say, in his philosophy and being in time, is like we disclose the world as certain things depending on what we're doing with our self projects, our daily involvements with the world, that things show up as being what they are for what I need them to be, right? So I notice this pops out as being determinate against everything else I'm ignoring. When I need to do my mantras, when I need to make prayers, I will notice it. It will jump out and say to me, I'm your mala. This is what, so I'm not just a necklace I can wear for decoration, like to a party or something like that. I'm not using this to burn it. Let's say I have to throw it in the fire for wood and burn it. I'm using it as a prayer rosary. So it's showing up as something determinate, is being, disclosed or revealed as being something determinate. For something I have to do. And then I have a feeling about it. I like it. I love my mala. This is sandalwood mala. It's really, really beautiful. Or something turns up, like I don't like it. Like I have to go to work. Oh, I look at all my manuals for work. They're showing up because I need them. I put them in the car and I have a feeling about, oh, these symbolize the job I don't like. I just look at these books and they make me sick, right? So the point being here is that this is something we're doing to the world. This is how we're structuring or creating the world. But the point is that it doesn't look that way. As sort of a quote fundamental ontology, it doesn't look that way. This looks like it's coming at me or separate from me or just the way things are, rather than how I'm involving myself in the world and creating the world a certain way. So anyway, so this is the important thing to see here. So when we're talking about the emptiness quality in the Heart Sutra of these things, we're trying to show their contingent nature. We're trying to show their creative quality, so to speak, as well as the process they enact as being something created as well through karma or action. Because why? On a day-to-day basis, they don't look that way, which is why we're stuck in samsara, why we suffer here. Okay, so looking at, again, look about emptiness here. Emptiness is empty of its own self-existence, and emptiness has its own emptiness, which means it doesn't exist out there by itself. It's part of your mind. So even emptiness in the context of the Heart Sutra is a projection of your mind. Okay, we basically all see the same emptiness because emptiness is the same, in all its different forms, so to speak. However, it doesn't have its own self-nature by definition. Emptiness is empty of itself. It would be sort of a self-contradiction if we take emptiness to be a kind of thing. And oftentimes that's a mistake people can make. People can say, I've heard people say, oh, emptiness is some kind of divine principle or like a creative God. I've actually heard people say things like that. Or emptiness, again, is some kind of thing, some kind of principle, some kind of substance. The voidness. Like this is why I've always loved this, my favorite philosopher, Ludwig Wittgenstein, because he always jokes, just sort of the whole Cambridge Ordinary philosophy movement, that language itself is bewitching, that when you, capitalize a noun or a word, you think it's a thing, right? Or like if you add the suffix ness, N-E-S-S, to something, it'll start to look like a particular thing, like something real and substantial, when really it's just expressions and grammar. So when I say voidness, emptiness, it's like, oh, wow, that must sort of exist independent of my mind and be something substantial here. So I have as a note, which is good, emptiness is not the opposite of fullness, but rather an absence. The absence of what I thought was there and it isn't there. So I was expecting something I now can't find, or something I see is not there. Okay, it's a sudden dawning of your mind that something you thought was there all this time isn't there. So this is the beginning of the path of seeing, which is, I think, it is. So in other words, what happens here, going again, taking back to the 5 paths to enlightenment, we're going from path of accumulation to path of preparation, preparing to see emptiness directly. So seeing emptiness at this point, just conceptually or inferentially through a mental image or concept, that falls away in our meditation, and we get a direct experience of emptiness, which is on the path of seeing or insight. So, yeah, path of seeing, looking at my notes here. Okay, so again, looking at emptiness here, as I mentioned in the last class, as being something of being an absence, or what they call a non-affirming negative in Buddhist logic, not an affirming negative, but a non-affirming negative. When we end up perceiving emptiness, focusing on our 5 aggregates, seeing the emptiness, like if we look in the LamRim parts on Vipassana in the LamRim meditations, the meditation emptiness that you have is where you're trying to find the I, or trying to find the self in the context of examining the 5 aggregates or 5 skandhas. So you end up seeing the emptiness of these things and the emptiness of the self. So it's the same kind of meditation here in the Heart Sutra. So what's the point here is that when we're actually seeing emptiness, this is an absence. Okay, as I've said before, this is now, again, one of these things, you get caught in the words, and in sort of, it's easy to sort of get caught in the sort of conceptual confusion, so to speak, in the sense that we're having a positive experience of a negative thing. In other words, we're having an experience. We can take it being positive, not like good, but in the sense that there is a content, meaningful experience, something that's transformative, something that's like a spiritual experience that ends up changing your whole life, changing the whole way you perceive the world. But the point is that it's an experience of a negative phenomenon. Okay, so that's the difference between what they call an affirming negative and a non-affirming negative. So an affirming negative would be, okay, I have a marble in one of my 2 hands here. Okay, so it's either my left hand or my right hand, but it's in one of my 2 hands. And so then you say, the marble is not in my right hand. My right hand is empty. What does that mean? It's in my left hand. I don't have one now, but if you open up, there's a little marble in here. That would be the example of of an affirming negative. Okay, logically, I'm inferring something else here. So what we want to say with emptiness being a non-affirming negative is you're just seeing the absence. The absence isn't pointing to something besides itself. It's just what it is. So that's the idea, again, the example of you can't find something you thought was there. So it's just like just making a mistake. It's almost like an optical illusion, in the sense that, you're driving and you start slowing down because the way the sun is on the pavement, it looks like there's water, like a mirage. So it's like, oh my goodness, I'm going to drive through a huge puddle here. I have to slow down so I don't spray the whole car. And then you're getting all scared, and oh, what if this is the road's washed out? What if it's flooded out? And then it's not there. It's like, oh my God. Or they give the example of the rope and the snake. I leave the garden hose out. I'm doing something at night. Oh, there's a snake by the garden shed. Oh, it's just a hose. Sense that it's something I thought was there isn't there. So what in the case here is things having the nature of not being related to anything else, especially my mind, my language, my words, and my concepts, that I guess you could say sort of ontological or self nature, that's not there. That's never been there. It's always already the case that it has never been the case that has been there. And that's what you're discovering. That's what you're seeing. So on the path of preparation, by looking at images, conceptual images, let's say dependent arising or the one in the midi, I'm sort of getting an image of that in my mind. But the point is that when I see this directly in the path of seeing, it's a direct experience of this. So what is, when I flip over from the path of preparation, when mind of tranquil abiding is holding the image of emptiness, that conceptual image that falls away, perceive things directly, hear emptiness directly. What happens? So seeing emptiness mentally in my mind, you're seeing it with your mind, because you can't see it with your eyes because it's not a physical thing. It's not like, again, I'm just like my particular, so looking at my book with my senses. Emptiness is something I'm seeing with my mind here. So your senses are shut down. This is Geshe Michael's commentary after about a 10 or 12 hour experience. Triggered by this experience, you get to the path of seeing. So another I end up sort of going this deep absorption meditation, as I've said before, going from the desire realm to the form realm of concentration with the mind of tranquil abiding. Very, very deep concentration here. And the object is emptiness. What happens is you end up perceiving that directly. So like I've said before, Geshe Michael says that it's about a 20-minute experience. I don't know, but let's just say that that's the case. There's no reason not to believe him. And but whatever that is, the point being is it's not an experience that you might be in for 2 years or something or whatever. It's sort of a short experience, but it's the idea of seeing through something, seeing through the magic trick, seeing through your mistake. Like I said, like you know, oh my goodness, the hair dryer won't work. It's broken. Oh, it's not plugged in. You know, that moment, like you do it. I remember once being on the phone with TELUS or something, like one of the, you know, cell phone companies or internet companies here, you know, in Canada and Toronto. And the first thing they say if you have problems is they say, did you plug it in? Like, there's, oh, my internet won't work. It's this huge thing. I've tried everything. I'm, you know, whatever. I'm outside of my phone on data and I'm looking at YouTube videos. This won't work. First thing they say is it plugged in? And I said, yes, plugged in. And then I said, do you always ask that? And the guy in the other line says, we always ask that because like 50% of the time, if not more, it's not plugged in. So the point is that moment you have, like when you screw up, when you realize something, you know, like it's not plugged in, that's why it won't work. Or something's broken. Oh my goodness, you have that moment, that transformative moment where it's the aha moment. This is it when you see emptiness directly. It has this kind of thing that you're seeing the absence of what you always thought was there. You're seeing the mistake. And that's why it's transformative. And just like you see through a magic trick or through a trick or through a mistake, you don't go back. It's not like you're fooled again. You see through it. You know, once you see through the magic trick, the card trick with the magician, you don't get re-fooled by it, right? It's the same kind of thing by seeing this here. So when you see emptiness directly and sort of come out of it, at this point, you become a higher being or Arya because you've seen emptiness directly, whereas everyone else sort of the same in samsara. Yeah, I like this here. The whole point of Buddhism, the Buddhist life, is to get to these 20 minutes of the path of seeing, to get to this moment here. And once we do, it's like we see there's no other choice but this. We see the reality of emptiness. We see through sort of our errors and our ignorance of the trick here. Then at this point, we sort of commit even deeper to our Buddhist life and seeing that only this at this point matters. Only this spiritual point matters of this self, this liberating ourselves and then liberating others. So what are you focused on during these 20 minutes? Again, just the absence of what you thought was there, aware of the gap between the image and data. Mind goes into this absence and just stays there. Focusing on all existent objects, we see them as empty, seeing the sheer absence of something that was never there. We are only aware of this absence. Even the thought, I did it, I got it, I'm seeing emptiness, isn't there, because these are positive experiences. So the first time you see the truth of dependent origination, then you see emptiness directly. Like I've said, first you see how you are just putting labels on basis, universals on particulars, or grouping things together in relationships. You know, we have thoughts and words, and we have objects. We see that these things are all coming together in mind, that it's something your mind is doing, right? So that's what you see first, that you see that everything is just labeled by the mind. Everything is just words and thoughts, words and concepts. It's something that I'm doing, that whatever I'm looking at, my experience is just that. So that's what we see first. Before we go into seeing emptiness directly, we see the truth of conventional reality, right? In Wittgenstein, we see the truth of conventions, of rules, the way we just are using the logic of applying words and concepts to our experience, creating the world the way we see it. We see that directly, then we see its absence. So the first time you see the truth of penetration, and then you see emptiness directly. You're focused on all things, but all you are seeing is emptiness. All existing things are not empty. Rather, you are focusing on all things, and all you see is their emptiness. Okay, on this level. The main emptiness you are aware of is afterward. Now you interpret the experience. This is your own emptiness, even though you see the emptiness of all things. Come down from this experience. The first thing you're aware of is the experience of the physical descent from the form to the desire realm, again, in terms of your concentration. The first thought you have is that you've seen emptiness directly. There's no question that you saw that, no doubt or confusion. So what's interesting here, so I like this, is that you're seeing all things as being labeled by the mind, again, through thoughts and words. Then you see emptiness at that point. And as you see all things, the emptiness of all things. So all things disappear, and all you see is the absence of their inherent existence, of their true existence, of their the existence other than them being that, just being labeled by the mind. So you're just in that negative experience, so to speak, the negative content, the absence of something. What you see is that absence, and you're just resting in that absence. So Tsongkhapa Rinpoche has a great example. He said, imagine you're at work or away on vacation, and you come home and everything in your house has been stolen. Like someone broke in, some gang came in and ripped you up. Like there's nothing left. You come in, you put the light on, and the house is completely empty. Someone took everything, pictures off the wall, the carpets, the bedding, the towels, all the kitchen stuff. There is not a single thing left. So he's trying to describe that moment like there's a sense of spaciousness. There's, of course, at first this kind of terror. Oh my goodness, everything's gone. But at the same time, what's it like to sit in that absence of everything being gone? What's that experience like to be in the empty house just for that moment of everything's gone. What I was expecting my whole life, all my possessions, it's not here. And so he was saying, like, there can be positive qualities in the sense of, everything, it just feels sort of spacious, and there's research, there's space in this house for the same time, for the first time, because I, was a bit of a hoarder. I had too much stuff. I was very, very cluttered. But I like this idea that what's it like being in that absence of expecting something and then it's not there? And what's that feel like? So it's that being able to sit in that spaciousness of that negative experience. So that's the emptiness of all things. And as Geshe Michael said, the main emptiness you're aware of is afterwards. Now you interpret the experience as your own emptiness, even though you see the emptiness of all things. Okay, so that's your experience of emptiness. When you come out of it, sort of back into the conventional reality of words and thoughts, you can sort of talk about it indirectly and use images and metaphors and stuff. The point is reflecting that, what did I see? What was that? What was that experience? What was that life transforming moment? I saw emptiness. Now it's the emptiness of all things, but it's my experience of the emptiness of all things, in particular the emptiness of myself, right? So when I like this, basically, when you come out of that experience, what happens? You're on your meditation cushion. And what are the kind of thoughts or realizations that you have? So number one, which is the great one, which is that you have no question that you saw emptiness, that you weren't asleep or drugged out or what happened, it's no, I know exactly what happened here. I know the implications and the consequences of this experience in terms of its therapeutic or emancipatory consequences to my life, right? So the first experience I have is that I saw emptiness. And second is it's a confirmed pramana, or a valid mind. I saw this for real. I was not on drugs. I was not crazy. It wasn't an imagination. And that's what they always say. And no one can ever take that away from you or get you to doubt that. You know exactly what's happened. It's one of these amazing, life transforming spiritual experiences. And, you know, it's your experience. You can't get anybody to sort of argue you out of it, so to speak, or to convince you that it didn't happen or it wasn't what you thought it was, right? And that the third experience is that you experience the four Arya truths, the four noble truths. So these aren't principles, they are direct experiences at this point, which is why they are Arya truths. There are truths that are true, or people see them as being true, those people who have seen emptiness directly and become an Arya or higher being. They're no longer a samsaric being, no longer normal sentient being in samsara. They're they're a realized being at this point. So they see these things not as sort of helpful fortune cookie maxims or sort of a philosophy, but they see them as being the nature of the way things are, taught by Buddha, right? These are why they call noble beings truths, or Arya beings truths. So at this point, it said that you can even see your own future enlightenment, know how long it will take. And you, at this point, also know that Buddha's, by confirming your own enlightenment here, by seeing this, you know Buddhas exist for real, you know, because you're going to become one. And you also know Buddhas exist because they taught these teachings, the Four Noble Truths, which you know are true because you've seen them directly. And then you see that you will, in these future lives, until you get enlightenment, will be cared for by holy beings and great teachers. You will see the kinds of beings you will be as sort of refining this experience of emptiness and reaching full awakening. And the characteristics of your future lives, what they'll be like. You'll also see that you know Buddhas are real because you saw a piece of them, so to speak. By seeing emptiness, you've seen the emptiness of the Buddhas themselves. In particular, you'll see the Sobhavakaya, or the emptiness of the Dharmakaya, or wisdom truth body of the Buddhas. So you saw a part of the wisdom truth body of the Buddhas. So you're sort of in contact, like we all are anyway, with the Buddhas, but you've seen this directly now. So you know that it's true. You know what's happening. You know there are Buddhas teaching you. You know what they're teaching you is true. You've experienced it. You're becoming a Buddha, and you see that happening. There's no doubt about that at this point. It's just like a whole process. It's completely clear. The lights are on right at this point. So Geshe Michael says that this is more, I think, his own autobiography. He said, you know, after you have experiences, you become obsessed with symbols of this experience as a reminder. So for him, of course, with, you know, him being a diamond salesman there at his company and stuff, he said that, you know, diamonds are a good metaphor or a symbol of emptiness. And so you really get into diamonds, I guess, because, you know, diamonds are the closest to an ultimate in nature, the hardest natural thing. Only a diamond can cut another diamond, and they are clear like emptiness. Everything has its own emptiness, infinite numbers of emptinesses. You only have to see one to be liberated. See one emptiness, you see them all, but you can't see them now because it's clear and invisible, just like emptiness, just like the mind, you can't see. And so like a pure diamond is completely invisible, doesn't reflect light, just like emptiness. Emptiness is right under your nose. It's everywhere here, but it's invisible as being more of a hidden object, right? You have to be in the ultimate level of reality, so to speak, to see it. It's not a conventional thing. You also see that all scriptures are 100% correct and true. You don't even have to read them. You know they're true. You know what they're getting at. You know what they're trying to teach. You know the process, the life that they're advocating, because you've experienced it directly here, seeing emptiness. There's a quote here by Nagarjuna: "You reduce the ocean of samsara to a puddle, and then you step over it." I actually really like that quote. That's a beautiful one. So once you see this, you see the emptiness of all things, emptiness of yourself. At this point, you can cut through it or leave it or be liberated from it. So ironically, everything is empty. Do I have to see the emptiness of all things? No, just seeing the emptiness of one thing, which is myself, which is the same emptiness as of everything else. I'm able to overcome the ignorance of all things and realize the emptiness of all things, like in such a way. Also, you feel a need to save the scriptures, because they are the map, they are the path to this experience you've just had, and you want to share that with all others. So it's interesting with bodhicitta, because this is, of course, a Mahayana path here that we have, that we're trying to do this with great compassion, or bodhicitta. We have it now, a direct experience of ultimate compassion, a direct generalized procession of all living beings, and you will spend all your waking hours thinking of them and serving them. So that's yeah, okay. So then, basically, with your bodhicitta, at this point, I guess you could say that, having seen emptiness, you know exactly why all sentient beings are suffering, the mistake they've all made, because this is a mistake you were making forever. You've seen through your mistake. You see what they have to do to see through the mistake. You want to help them see through that mistake. So you want to teach Dharma, teach emptiness, to promote emptiness, to sort of live this life, be an example, help all the Buddhas, teach all sentient beings how to self-liberate, because you've done it, you've seen it, you're doing it right now. And you have this great, great love and desire of seeing your relationship, kind of like all beings as being your mother, all beings as being your family, all beings suffering from this mistake that you know how to fix now. So you want to help them help themselves to do the same thing. And last here, so it's once we get here, that's all doubt in the Dharma is gone, of course, because you have this as a direct experience. It's no longer something inferential or indirect or something you don't believe in. It's a direct experience. So Rinpoche always said, Zazen Rinpoche, my Lama, always said that you only need beliefs and logic for stuff you don't see directly. You don't need to argue something if it's direct, a direct experience of it. You need to sort of argue or prove things or believe in things if you're not seeing them directly. And that's, there's a great line if you read On Certainty, Wittgenstein, some of his last work before he died in the early 50s there. He said, like, philosophical skepticism isn't something you do in your daily life. It's done like in a context of a seminar. Like he said, like if you come up to someone who's saying to themselves, there's a couple people sitting on a chair in a park or something, you walk up and someone's like, is this my hand? Or is the sun really shining? If you hear that, you're like, what's wrong with these people? Like, what is that? And then if someone comes up, oh, they're having a philosophy class. It's they're teaching, one guy's teaching the guy philosophy. Then you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense now. I understand like the language game of what they're doing. So, but what's interesting is the point is everyone knows in terms of their daily lives that you don't need logic or reason for direct experiences for stuff like that. So even when you look at Descartes' meditations, where is like, am I really dreaming? Like when I'm up in the morning getting ready for work, is this a dream? Like in a very direct, vulgar way. Like, really, am I in bed having this dream? We never have that problem. Like if we're trying to make sort of a deeper claim about things, a deeper reasoning about, whether things are dreamlike because they don't inherently exist because they're changing, we don't notice it. That's something I'm just saying in a very vulgar way. Like maybe I'm not sitting here. Maybe I'm really whatever in Bermuda right now on the beach. I'm not recording in class like this. No one thinks of that. You don't do that. You don't have to do that because you don't know. You know that it's true. So it's only when things are slightly hidden that we have to, or indirect, that we have to use logic. What they call inferential valid cognizers, or if there's smoke coming out of an apartment building, well, we know there's fire, even though if we can't see it, we need to indirectly reason from things. So the point is, at this point, at the path of seeing emptiness directly, you don't need to do that. You don't doubt that anymore. You don't need to prove to yourself any more things. It's already proven. It's like, whatever, like burning yourself with a lighter, putting your hand over a fire. Is there any doubt that you're having that experience? Do I have to prove that to myself? Do I have to believe it? Well, no, it's a direct experience that way. And we also see the intellectual idea that things are the way they are seen as an illusion. So what's interesting, just like they say is in our hat, well, and actually the last thing you see is that it says belief in wrong spiritual paths that harm yourself or body or so at this point, you just believe and commit to the Dharma. You're not interested in other ideologies or philosophies or doctrines or other religions and not to disrespect other religions, but the point is that once you see emptiness directly, all you focus on now is just completing the path. You're not interested in anything else. You're not interested in people teaching other different kinds of systems or philosophies, ideologies, or whatever, or different constructs or so forth. You're just focused on that. Yeah, and you realize what's helpful to escaping your suffering or samsara and what's not, what's relevant to your life and what's irrelevant to your life at that point. But saying that the intellectual idea that things are the way they are, they seem as an illusion. In other words, you know that even though things appear to be separate from you, appear to be separate to your mind, appear to be more than just words and concepts, you know that they're not because you've seen emptiness directly. You see the nature of conventional reality just to be conventions, just to be the rules of how we use words and thoughts, that those create the world. You see that, but it still looks, they still look real to you. They still look like they're independent. It still looks that you're not doing that. But the point is, you know that you are. You know you're just labeling things, that the world is just a symbolic universe. It just doesn't look that way, but you know that it is. So you won't act in a way, in an ignorant way that'll create negative karma or bring more suffering. And then finally here is moving on to the path of the fourth path of habituation, with the gom or meditation, so to speak, is how do I apply this experience of having seen emptiness directly to my life? How do I live this? So this part is just refining, embodying it, habituating yourself to living it, right? Meditating emptiness again and again and again. And at this point, creating all the rest of the merit or virtue to get enlightened. So nothing has happened for the reasons you thought it was. Nothing is caused by what appears to be caused by. Your worldview in samsara is 100% wrong. You've seen this directly now. You see that everything's a product of your mind. So at this point, what are you doing? You're getting rid of old bad karma and planting new good karma. So at this point here, what are you doing? You're just practicing. It's total renunciation. You're just practicing Dharma. More meditation, more study, more realization. In particular, because you understand how everything is a product of the mind, product of karma, how we project things, you end up keeping all your three levels, depending if you practice Tantra or not, but your Bodhisattva and Pratimoksha, so your Hinayana and Mahayana, commitments, vows, precepts, you keep them directly because you are creating at this point a pure world. You see that the world comes from your actions, the way you think, the way you talk, and what you do. And so at this point, you create only the good karma to do that. You won't create any bad karma because you've seen through the trick that would seduce you into creating the bad karma. You see through inherent existence, self-cherishing mind, self-grasping mind, the self of yourself and the self of all things around you. All your bad karma is predicated on that. That's going away, so you don't act in that way. Okay. So at this point, you just want to check all your vows. And in other words, what you end up living at this point, the path of habituation, is the path of living an ethical life, path of living a life of the 6 paramitas and keeping all your vows and commitments purely. So creating tons of good karma and purifying your bad karma at this point here. And by this ends up being, which is interesting, is that this is a tantric path, even if you're not practicing Tantra, you're practicing good old-fashioned Mahayana Buddhism. you end up, like they say, to the science of successfully manipulating reality with your thoughts by changing your thoughts, changing reality, making your reality more and more beautiful, more and more compassionate, more loving, and more pure by how you're thinking and what you're doing. You are your actions, you are your thoughts. Okay. And by keeping happy, kind attitude towards all beings and to the world here, this ends up changing all the energy in, your prana, your meridians, and so forth in your body. And this then starts to change your body and eventually making it into a tantric reality of a pure body, a pure mind with a pure embodiment in that case. So a pure world flowing from your pure body and from your pure mind. Okay, so I think that's about it. I have one last thing here. Is nirvana is your mind is like an object, like a pot, for instance, or a book. Your thoughts are projections. You then never once you reach nirvana, you never organize all your thoughts and data into bad thoughts or bad constructs. You get rid of the quote unquote talking in your head or negative agency. Thoughts are there, but you organize them differently. So it's interesting. So at this point, it's not necessarily, again, that you're not having, you've seen emptiness, you're no longer thinking or talking or doing. The point is how you're putting the world together changes rather than putting it together in a negative way because it's based on your self-cherishing. You're organizing the world. How you label things, how you see things, how you create them is in a positive way based on cherishing and loving others, which you do because you've seen emptiness directly. With a Mahayana attitude. So if there's that great thing is change the conception, the appearances will follow. That basically appearances are just conception, just sort of sedimented, so to speak. So the more I change my conception, how I see the world, how I talk about the world, how I think the world, that ends up creating the image of what the world is, how I end up perceiving it. So it becomes more, well, in the case of where we started, very, very negative because what we're putting out there, say, in terms of projection, now we're turning everything around and making it positive. And it's because we've seen emptiness directly that we see that this is not just possible, but it's a necessity of doing so. That it's always already the case that we're doing this. So turning it all over, changing it, changing your worldview, changing your attitude is something blissful and pure and beautiful. Not just for ourselves, but for all sentient beings. Okay, so that's it for today. And we're having a class coming up. We're just going to finish up the last few things here on the Heart Sutra and a bit of a question and answer and so forth. So we'll just leave it there. So let's just take a moment to dedicate all of our meditation and teaching today and study for the awakening of all sentient beings, that we may all see emptiness directly and be liberated. So blessings of all holy beings, the truth of karma, our pure intention, and all of our dharma wishes be fulfilled. Okay, thank you for coming, and we'll see you next time.